1 month, I made like twice my teaching salary. My husband was really struggling at work, like mentally, everything. And it honestly broke my heart to see him struggling so much.
The level of discontentment you feel when you're in like a job that you hate in Dubai, I think it's even worse. When you guys say that you went hard, what does that look like?
We didn't go on holidays. We didn't have any luxuries really. I feel like rent to rent's been like hoard out. It's a viable, credible business strategy. We just kind of felt like, is this it? Like in the UK, when we got back from Dubai, everyone thought, you got back from Dubai, oh my gosh, you're big money now. But absolutely no. People that have reached a certain level of success, they try to overcomplicate success. It really isn't that complicated.
You and your husband manage a portfolio of over 100 different properties.
Yeah. So you don't actually need 100 landlords to get to 100 properties or 100 agents. You need...
I hope you guys are excited to get into this episode. Don't forget, if you would like to purchase an investment property in Dubai, make sure to fill out the form below and book a free consultation with me. Welcome to the Building Wealth with No Borders podcast with me, Lamide Elizabeth, where I'll be bringing you guests from around the world to share their strategies on building wealth. And today we are in Dubai with serial entrepreneur and property investor and manager, Tomi Tieyo.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself to people who may not know who you are.
Okay, great. Yes, hello, I'm Tomi. Yes, I currently live in Dubai. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and I'm an entrepreneur. And yeah, I'm here in Dubai and I'm absolutely loving being back here.
I'm so excited to have you here. Since you didn't do it, I'll drop some credentials for you.
Sure.
I don't know everything, but I know that you and your husband manage a portfolio of over 100 different properties.
Yeah.
I know that you help women scale to multiple 5 figures.
Yeah.
Business. So you're also like a business coach. Are there any other credentials? I just like to throw the credentials out there at the start, just so people know who they're listening to as we go through your story.
Yeah. I guess the main thing for me is that I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur from the age of 16, basically. Always been somewhat hustling, very passionate about business. And I feel like I'm at the point now where I can kind of pass on that passion to other women. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, let's start with how you grew up. What was your relationship like with money when you were growing up?
So I grew up in a single parent household. I'm one of 4. I'm third born. And my mum, we lived in Southwest London initially. So we were from Putney, Southwest London, which is actually quite a nice part of London, but we were in a council flat. And the scheme came out for Labour where they allowed you, I think they gave you some money to purchase a property. Either you can purchase your council flat at a discount or they gave you like a lump sum to go and purchase a house somewhere. So they were very... they were encouraging a lot of social mobility back then. So my mum ran at the opportunity and she went out to Kent to buy a home in Kent.
Oh, nice.
So we moved out from Southwest London when I was about 10 years old, moved to Kent. And yeah, it was a very, very different environment for me. So in terms of my financial upbringing, my mum's always been a hard worker, single mum, hard worker, working all jobs. And then she started up her own business when we were quite young. So she, I didn't know much about making a lot of money. I just grew up around an environment where she showed me that you can make money on your own terms.
Okay.
So it wasn't necessarily massive figures. We had a very humble lifestyle. She was very much working hard. But still, we were living within our means.
But your mum was an entrepreneur.
She was an entrepreneur, yeah.
The whole time that you grew up.
So it was when she was in her late 30s, she then moved into business. So before that, she was a nurse, mental health nurse. She always worked in like care homes and things like that, and always side hustled. But she took the jump when I remember around her 40th birthday.
How old were you then?
I was about 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did life differ, if anything, right? When your mum was a nurse and she was employed and when your mum was an entrepreneur. The only reason why I'm asking is because I know from other people and just speaking to them, your parents' job can massively have an impact on how you view certain things. So I have friends who maybe their parents were entrepreneurs, but because they saw a lot of deals go wrong, or like because that made it difficult for them because maybe all of their parents' money was going towards, you know, the business that they were running, they actually have a disdain for entrepreneurship. Or maybe there are other people whose parents worked a traditional job and they saw how hard that their parents were working in a traditional job and how they still weren't able to meet the bills. And that gave them a disdain towards having a steady job. And they were like, there's no way I'm doing that. I want to go and be an entrepreneur. So just interested if you saw any differences that maybe impacted you.
Yeah. The thing is, my mum, when she was working in her job, she did seem a lot more stable than when she became an entrepreneur. When she became we had a bigger house, actually. When she was working, we had a bigger house, like a detached house and nice drive and everything. But she went for a marriage breakdown. She went for a marriage breakdown and kind of like lost everything and built herself up again. So she was really empowered by doing her own business, basically. But yeah, there was a lack of stability there. She was doing it well. Like, she was doing well, but it was somewhat unattractive to me, to be honest. She gave me, bear in mind, I'm one of 4 sisters. So I feel like she almost raised 4 like women soldiers the way she was. Because she always says, you can. And whatever you do, just make sure you do to the best of your ability. But it was a little bit unattractive for me just because it seemed like a lack of stability.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What was school like? How did you go through the education system? What did you study? Did you go to uni?
Yeah. So we moved from Southwest London to Kent when I was about 10, 11, so going into year 6. And it was a very, very different environment. So I was the only black girl in my school initially. And then we went, in London, there wasn't 11 plus back then. I don't know if there is now. But when we moved into Kent, they said, oh, do you want to do the 11 plus? And my mum didn't really know what it was. I didn't know what it was, but we were like, okay, fine. So they've got the grammar stream in Kent where you've got grammar schools, you've got comprehensive schools, etc. So I did the test, passed the test, went into a grammar school, girls' grammar school. And it was, it was really lovely, to be honest. It was a great environment. Finished school, went on to university, studied international business with Spanish. I know it's a bit random, the Spanish part. And then went on to do my teaching qualification and became a secondary school teacher.
So you did go to grammar school?
Yeah, I did go to grammar school.
What was that experience like?
Yeah, I guess I don't know any better, right? So it was lovely.
True.
It was a small little school in Kent. Again, I was minority. I think I was the only black girl in my year, to be fair. And then every year it started to get more and more, and slowly as people moving down from London. But I enjoyed it. I didn't face any racism or anything like that. Yeah. It was more sort of like, oh my gosh, your hair looks lovely. Oh my gosh, how do you do your braids? It was sort of that sort of kind of environment.
But did it impact your ambition? Because I never went to grammar school. I wish I did. I didn't know. I grew up in Hackney, and my mum wasn't very involved in choosing the schools that I went to because she didn't know any better. So I had one auntie who like really wanted to be involved, but then she always wanted me to go to schools that was so far away, and I was like, I want to go to school in outside London. So I picked schools based on like, I don't know, where my friends were going and stuff like that. But I do feel like I wish I kind of went to a grammar school just because I feel like I didn't end up going to private school, but that was for a very short time. But I feel like if I went to a grammar school, my perception is that it would have pushed me a lot more because you're surrounded by a lot of smart people and driven people. That's my perception. And so in my mind, I was like, I think if I went to a school like that, maybe I'd even have performed even better in school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know. So what was it? Was there any difference?
Yeah, I mean, in the grammar school, you are taught to be, they do teach you to aim for excellence in everything that you do. So yeah, you are around students that have really tried hard to get in there and parents that also want their kids to be in that. So you are around sort of like, the mindset of excellence.
Yeah.
But, there's also a lot of pressure in grammar schools as well. That's the thing, because you can pass the test and just scrape it, or you can like pass it with flying colours. Right. So even within that, there's such disparity in terms of the levels within grammar schools as well. So, but no, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I can't fault it. And yeah, if my daughters had the opportunity to go to grammar school, I would definitely push it because I had a great experience.
Would you choose a grammar school over private school?
So if they didn't get into a grammar school, I would probably put them through the private school system. My kids, when we were in the UK, they were in a private school anyway. But just because I think it's important to think about not just how much your children are pushed in school, but also, their surroundings, the parents and things like that. It all makes an impact. So if you can do better, then do, right? If you can expose them to better, then you always want your kids to do better than what you've done and, be in environments better than you are. So yeah, absolutely. I know it's a debate. I know that some people may think otherwise, but I can only speak on my experience and how much a grammar school surroundings, exposed me to excellence.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know there's this debate, and I find the debate interesting. I think I would push first for, this is so random, but it's actually relevant, because I think when you're building wealth for yourself as well, you do have, these are the sort of choices that you will encounter as to, having the choice of whether to send your kids to grammar school or to a private school. But anyways, I think I would, even though I haven't been, I think I'd push for grammar school first, and then push for a private school. Even though some private schools, only because my experience of going to private school, I just think I don't necessarily, there were some obviously really, really smart people there, but also a lot of people who got a lot of help. And I think a lot of people also were very confident in being able to buy their way through education. And I remember I mentioned this on someone else's podcast, and people were like, that doesn't happen in private school. It doesn't happen in every private school, but in my private school, for example, there were so many ways that they could save you from failing. So we even had this option called, like, I think it's like A1, where you could do like your AS and your A2, your first year of A-levels and second year of A-levels in 1 year. There were things like they would, when people missed their grades, they would call the universities and be like, what do you mean you're not letting them in? And people have gotten offers because the school was like, anyways, it's a different experience. But I felt like money was a huge factor in private schools. It wasn't all about like your hard work and your drive and your ambition. You could buy your way through quite a bit, even in education, which sounds, even little things like people would also like pay to do tests, fail the test on purpose, like ADHD type tests, so that they can get extra time. There is so much that goes on. Anyways, but it's off topic. But anywho.
Well, it's good because I guess if you've never experienced private school, I guess some people like romanticize it, or they really want their children. But it's like, it's not the be all and end all.
It's not. Yeah. It's not. There's little things that happen. So you went on to be a teacher. How did you end up being a teacher?
To be honest, I mean, it's going to sound really random, but you know what? I saw a lot of lack of stability, right? Growing up. So I just wanted something really stable, really safe. Yeah. So it just seemed really attractive to me. That was all. It wasn't something like I had that feeling in my belly that I'm one day going to, no, not at all. I just kind of thought this looks quite stable. I kind of see teachers and they seem that they live an okay life, and let's do it. So I also wasn't superly financially motivated as a child as well, because of the lack of stability that I had. Right. So I kind of just wanted stability. I wasn't like, I want to, achieve millions per month. So I went into it because it seemed safe, it seemed secure, it seemed accessible. It seemed pretty straightforward to become a teacher. Yeah.
So when did things change? Why did you transition out of teaching?
So when I was a teacher, I was a very good teacher. And I loved it, to be honest. I loved working with young girls. I was always in girls' schools as well, to be fair. And I did actually work in a private school once as well. And I actually preferred working in the comprehensive schools because I feel like you could make more of a difference. But I loved it. I did well. I thrived. I got promoted, etc. But it was, for me, it just became a bit flat. At a point, I felt like I wasn't being challenged. I felt like it was quite repetitive. And it just wasn't doing anything for me. And I'd look at, okay, maybe I could become a vice principal or head teacher. But again, it was very unattractive to me, the pathway, the career ladder. So, I mean, even aside from the potential career progression in teaching, I always was kind of hustling anyway in uni, and I just carried that on throughout my teaching career as well. So yeah, I did love teaching and I respect the profession highly. And there's many perks to being a teacher, like having, the holidays off. It's very like, if you're a mother, it's very child friendly. Made some amazing friends, but I felt unchallenged at a point. So yeah.
So then what did you do?
So throughout teaching, I was always doing hair. So my mum had a salon, that was her business. And all four of us worked at the salon, right? Quite reluctantly. But I actually took a liking to hair, to be fair. I was actually quite good at it. I picked it up. And I'd always get compliments. Oh, Tomi, you should take it up. But I thought, nice, this is not a real. I just thought hair, everyone can do hair. I didn't really respect it, if I'm being honest. I thought it's just one of those things. And So I never had to work throughout uni. I never had to get a job really because I always side hustled doing hair. And I met some amazing clients doing hair, just amazing people. And whilst I was teaching, again, I found I had a lot of time as well, holiday. So I just kind of thought, well, I might as well do some hair then if I've got this holiday off. And I think 1 month I made like twice my teaching salary doing hair. And I was like, oh, okay. This is something that, can be taken seriously. So then I just didn't overthink it. I just left my job. I just like gave my notice in and left my job. I was just like, what? I've got no kids right now. I've got no mortgage. Mate, this is making more money than my career. Let's go ham. So I left my job, and my husband's just as crazy as me. Like we were both in our 20s, we're just leaving jobs, entering jobs, leaving jobs, entering jobs. We had no real strategy at all. We just followed our hearts.
Okay. So from the age, is that from 16? Is that when you started doing other people's hair?
Yeah, 16, then throughout uni.
Okay.
Yeah. At 22, I became a teacher. So 22, I was a qualified teacher. Yeah.
Right. And at what age did you then leave teaching?
So my first job that I left, I think I was 24, 25. Yeah, I just got married. So it was about 24, 25, yeah.
So you just got married and you left your job?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my marriage was also very, very like nothing spectacular. Like we just did the registry and we did the reception in my mum's house.
Wow.
Yeah. So
why did you do it that way?
We had no money. We had no money to do it. And we also, we didn't want to delay for the sake of, I want to have a massive wedding. We were very much like, should we do it? Are you ready? Am I ready? Cool, let's do it. We didn't overthink it. So I'm very much big on not overthinking, So, and my husband's the same as well. So we just did it. And everyone thought we were like crazy. I was like, why are you rushing for? Like, you can just wait another couple of years, get some money together. But we were like, no, we're ready now to do it. And that was the best decision ever because we started to make our life choices together. So yeah, with the hair, I made more money 1 month, left my job. And then that's when I started to hustle with hair and build up with hair and had started to do like more high profile clients.
So your experience leaving your job, what was that like? Did that month that you made double your teaching salary, did that continue? Were there times where you were like, oh, this isn't doing what I thought it would do. Let me go back to work. Yeah. What was the progression like after you left that first teaching job?
Yeah. So definitely I had really good months. I had really bad months, up and down. But because I tasted a little bit of, decent money, making it on my own, I couldn't go back to work the same. I couldn't, anytime I'd go. So there were times that I thought, oh, do you know what? I was just being a bit irrational here. Let me go back into my job. But then I'd be there for like a month and be like, no, I need to get out of this again, So it kind of, it's like once you see something, you can't unsee it, right? So that was the phase that I was going through. But again, it wasn't stable. So yeah, I mean, that's when we moved to, so there was a few years of hair hustling. Bear in mind, all throughout this stage, my husband was consistently working in IT recruitment.
Okay, so you were like maybe experiencing a bit more instability, but he had a stable job.
He had a stable job, but he would also very much do businesses outside of it. So we set up our own recruitment company as well. Like we were very much side hustlers at that point, right? But I would like leave my job, keep my job, stay, go, etc. So yeah, and then we moved to Dubai, 2017.
Okay, so how old were you when you moved to Dubai?
I was 26, 27.
Okay.
Yeah, 27, just turned 27, yeah.
And why did you guys move to
Dubai? So we got to a point in the UK where, side hustling, my husband was working a stable job, but he hated his job. Like he hated it with a passion. We just bought our first property. So, although I sound like I'm really crazy, we still were, buying, like, we're very much financially literate in terms of, buying a home. So we bought our first property and we were in our property and we were like, okay, this is good. This is all right. We've got our place that we live in. We've got married, but we just kind of felt like, is this it? Is this it? Like in the UK. So then one of my husband's friends actually moved to Dubai, maybe I think a couple of years prior. This was maybe 2015, he moved to Dubai. And he'd always tell us, you should go to Dubai. You lot are just so, you're going to do well out there. And we're just like, nah, it's the Middle East. I had that mindset of like, what are you going to do out there? Can you do anything out there? That mindset. And so he applied for a job. got the job. I applied for a job, got the job. First, it was like really quick.
In Dubai?
Yeah.
What jobs were those?
So I was teaching.
Okay,
I was teaching.
Yeah.
And my husband also was doing IT recruitment initially as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So, it was 3 weeks after I had my daughter, I had the interview. So I was 3 weeks out of my C-section. We had to go to a hotel in London for the interview. It was crazy, but we both got the job. So he moved first, then I moved like 3 weeks after.
Wow. Okay. And then what was your experience like in Dubai when you moved?
Yeah, I loved it. I worked like in a Emirati school. So it was very different to the environments that I was in the UK. I was very much deep in the Emirati culture. I even picked up a little bit of Arabic because all the teachers were Arab, and it was such a rich experience. I absolutely loved it. But then it got to that point again, even though you are in a new environment and it's a new job, etc. That feeling just sort of overwhelms me again of like, no, this is it, and I need to do more again. So I started doing hair again. It's like a pattern, like, hair never left me. So I started doing hair again in Dubai, and again exposed to a really different level of clientele here, to be honest. It really stretched my mind. Made some amazing contacts just through doing hair. And yeah, Dubai kind of scared me a little bit because I'd meet people here that are working. I don't know if you experience this as well when you're working, but it kind of was like they were here, they were working, and they were doing okay, like better than they would do in their home countries, but they still weren't living life on their own terms. And you still get Sunday blues. You still, still a work environment. So I thought, no, there's no way that I'm going to live this type of life here. So it scared me a little bit. So then we started to make decisions. Okay, what are we actually doing?
And then you moved back to the UK.
So then when we started feeling like that, we thought, okay, cool. We need to set up something now. We need to set up a business, not a hustle. We need to set up a business.
Right.
So 2017, 4th of September 2017, never forget, we incorporated our property company. And that's when we started to get into property properly.
Okay. If you're enjoying this content, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And if you would like to become an international property investor in Dubai or in the UK, the link to book a free consultation will be in the description box below. If you're not quite ready to invest yet, check out the affordable video courses that will also be linked in the description box below. And if you would like to relocate to Dubai, set up your business in Dubai, or anything else related to relocating to Dubai, check out www.theprofessionalnetwork.com. So you incorporate that company in the UK or Dubai?
We're living in Dubai.
Okay.
But it's UK.
In the UK.
Company.
How were you guys super into property before that, or what made you think, property is the thing?
No, I mean, we already bought our little flat. And I think everyone kind of knows property is a good, solid thing to do, right? And most wealthy people that you meet, they have property. So really what ignited it was my husband was really struggling at work, like mentally everything. And it honestly broke my heart to see him struggling so much. So I was just researching, like, what is it that can be done? And I stumbled upon property, but it wasn't like, this is 2017. So it wasn't like today where there's such an abundance of information now on property. It wasn't much. But the one that I did see, I was like, okay, cool. Let me learn. Let me find out more.
It was a course?
It was it was like a year's mentorship sort of thing. Okay. Yeah. And the guy that does it, I don't think he's around anymore. I've not seen him like since we've did the mentorship. So yeah, we took the plunge. We paid for the mentorship for the year, and we got started. 14K.
And what did you like? What was the overall gist of what you learned on that course?
How to buy a property. Entry strategy. So it was like the rent to rent model. Okay. But it wasn't like today. It was more sort of like the HMO. It was just the HMO strategy that we learned.
Okay, but with rent to rent.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, that would be you don't own the property. You're renting it off of the owner or an agent or something like that, and then you are then individually letting out each those rooms.
Yeah. So back then it was like, property in Southwest London, I think a 5-bed was like 1,200 to rent out. And then you could rent out each room for like £500. So the profit margins are really, really healthy.
Yeah.
And it was such a low cost entry. Right. Because obviously you just pay for the rent, the deposit, you furnish it, and then you go. And then you can make 800 upwards per property. So it just seemed like it made sense because we had money saved, like maybe I think it was like 30, 40K, right? But our initial strategy was, let's buy a house up north. And then just start our property portfolio from there. Buy that, refinance, pull some money out, equity out, go again. But it's when I looked at the two strategies, I thought the speed of rent to rent in terms of cash flow, it just made sense.
Yeah.
Because, you know, putting 40K into one property to make potentially £400-500 a month, that was really not exciting for us at all. And it really wouldn't change our lives. So we wanted something that's going to actually change our lives. We weren't looking for long-term investment right now. The priority was cash flow.
Right.
And that strategy just said, okay, cool, you can make cash flow. So that's why we started that whilst we were in Dubai.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and go on.
So then, talk a bit more. So then how did you guys end up going back to the UK?
Yeah, so we started in 2017 and we were calling agents from Dubai, right? So I think that was great leverage for us because back then, obviously Dubai is very popular now, but back then it wasn't as popular as it is now. So when you'd call from Dubai, people would be like, oh, wow, okay, wow, you're from Dubai? They were quite intrigued. And I think we use that to our benefit to get properties quite quickly, quite early on.
Why is that? Because people had a perception that you were a bit more...
Yeah, absolutely. And also I think that it was like, strange to them, you know. They first of all didn't really understand the concept. Now if you speak to an agent and say rent to rent or company, they're going to be like, no, buy.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
But back then, we're talking about 8 years ago now. It was like, oh, what's that? What's let me know more. They were more sort of like open to listen and open to trying, you know. So then we got started then. It took us 4 months to get our first property.
Okay.
And we'd literally come back from work, be on the phones, emails whilst on my lunch break, you know, just that side hustle energy. I brought it into this. And it really kicked off. So my husband left his job, like within months of us starting the job that he hated, within months of us starting the business. And it got to a point where, and we just thought that the rate that we were growing at, being in Dubai, the physical distance was actually a hindrance now. So we thought, you know what, we're not actually doing anything in Dubai in terms of property wise. Let's just go where we're making money. Let's go back home and let's go in. And that's what we did. We went back and we went hard. Like, you know, I was pregnant with my second when we moved back to Dubai. So we were still building. So our life was very, very humble. Our, you know, where we lived, etc., was very, very humble.
In Dubai or in the UK?
No, in the UK. We went back to the UK.
Talk to it, but like, what do you mean by humble?
Humble. So like, we lived in a small house. Not the flashiest of cars.
Okay.
You know, from the outside, very much was struggling because we put everything into the business. And there's a bit that I missed out earlier, actually. Like when we first got married, we lived in a room as well because we just couldn't afford, we were putting money into, we wanted to put money into a property, right? So we had a very, very humble wedding. All our energy was putting into getting our first kind of place. So we lived in a room for a while just to kind of, isolate our finances. So yeah, that mindset of like living small in order for a long-term purpose, I'm absolutely fine with that, you know? So yeah, like when we got back from Dubai, because everyone thought, you got back from Dubai, oh my gosh, you big money now. But absolutely no, we were like, went back to, and our place that we'd bought, we'd rented it out, so we had to kind of go back to the drawing board in terms of our life, but the business was bubbling in the background.
There's so many interesting points about that. One, the level of I think obviously a lot of the content that you guys might see from this channel will like paint Dubai in a good light because it is a really good place to be in, especially as a young adult. But one of the things that I felt, which is I don't think I would have left corporate if I was still in the UK, but the level of discontentment you feel when you're in like a job that you hate in Dubai, I think it's even worse because the city, at least as it is now, I don't know if it was like back then, but the city, you just look around you, you look out and like the potential that you see is unlimited. Like you just see people doing so many incredible things. And I remember just like be looking around my office and I'm like, this cannot be it. The way I'm looking outside this window and seeing people live life and seeing their cars and their houses and people who are not even that far off from you. No. I was like, there's no way. There's no way this can be my life. So the level of discontentment that I felt, I think was even more than it was in the UK, because in the UK, it's like, it's normal for everyone to be miserable. Everyone has Monday blues. Everyone's sad. So it's like, yeah, whatever. But in Dubai, you have that access to see another life that is like when you're really discontented, you really feel it like, nah. And then you also have the empowerment around you to like, I can actually change my life because other people have done it. So that's I can definitely relate to that. So when you guys say that you went hard, what does that look like? And how was your portfolio racking up? Just so, because I always like to try to contextualize the hustle, because one, a lot of people underestimate how hard you have to hustle to get certain things. But I think it would also, maybe I don't know how quickly you grew your portfolio within a year, some of the numbers so we can really start to understand.
Yeah, so we were very determined to get up to 10 properties within the first 6 months of coming back to the UK. So bear in mind that when we left Dubai, we were on property number 5.
Okay.
So
in how long did you get to 5?
Took us about a year to get to 5.
Okay. And what does the numbers look like on 5? Like what's the net cash flow? Or
so about 700-800 per property.
Okay. Net cash flow.
Yeah, net cash flow. Yeah. So we were like really happy. We're like, wow, this is great. You know, like the fact that we're making this from, you know, not having to be anywhere or be in any environment. Let's do this. Let's 10x it. So when we got back, we were like, okay, let's get up. The next financial goal was 10 properties. We're like, okay, cool, 10 properties. We'll do that pretty fast, because what happens when you're in this industry is that you'll meet one landlord, and most likely they're portfolio landlords, or you have an agent and the agent likes you and they like the way they work. So you don't actually need 100 landlords to get to 100 properties or 100 agents. You need a handful of good relationships, and they'll feed you properties. And that's what started to happen. You know, our reputation started to build in the area. We paid rent when we said we're going to pay it. We did things as we should do them. So it got to a point after the 10, we were just getting handed, are you available for this property? Tomi, I got this one. So it became quite, we just got fed properties after some time. So that's how we were able to grow very aggressively.
And then how did you get to the point where you guys are at now, where you're like on 100? I know you don't own all of them, but like, how did you guys get there?
Yeah, so 2021, we decided it's time to have a physical presence. So before, we'll just be calling from home and, you know, etc. But we thought, you know what, we're actually so busy, and we actually wanted to take on staff at this point now. So, you know, we thought, no, we need to get an office. So we got an office on our local high street, and it was just so monumental. You know, when we got the keys, me and my husband just sat in there like, oh my gosh, you've actually got a proper high street office. This is crazy. Yeah. So, and then we started to employ staff now. So obviously once you get staff, then you get more manpower. So whatever you could do, you can do it now a lot quicker, a lot more efficient. Obviously there's been challenges with that as well, but it started to really rack up, you know, when we got the office, it became easier because you have a high street presence and you've got more credibility with a presence, and landlords will walk into the office and say, I've got this property, what can you guys do to help me, you know, with this property? And then we'd have a range of options. So bear in mind, we started off with rent to HMO, but then we now have numerous different strategies that we do. So it's like we see ourselves as property problem solvers now, because if somebody comes with us for a property, then we can give them some sort of solution for it.
So when your high street store, was it like a property management thing? Like what would make someone walk past and think, oh yeah, let me walk into here? Yeah,
so it's kind of like an estate agent kind of feel.
Right.
So we also do estate agent services as well. So like, you know, if you've got property for sale, we'll put it up for sale for you. Rightmove, Zoopla, etc. If you want just the normal standard let, if you want us to do tenant finding, we'll do that for you. Or if you want us to be your tenant, we'll take on the property and we'll use it as a vehicle to make money as well. So we do everything property. We are property management. We're a property solutions company. So it's not just, we started off as rent to rent, of course, but now it's everything property that we do. Yeah, so you would probably walk past it on the high street and assume that's an estate agent. That's the kind of feel. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on like rent to rent today? I remember people were trying to get me into rent to rent. I saw a couple of deals come across my table and I was like, these numbers aren't stacking at all. Yeah. But yeah, what do you guys still do that today?
Yes, 100%. Like I feel like rent to rent's got quite a bad reputation now. And it breaks my heart a little bit.
Okay.
because rent to rent is amazing. And you know, when you think about Premier Inn, for example, it's rent to rent. They've leased the building and they're leasing every single room on a nightly rate. It's just a lot more sophisticated. So I feel like the term rent to rent's been like hoarded out so much, but it's a viable, credible business strategy that if done well, it can change your life. You know, so I love it. I feel like rents are going up. We can't deny that. You know, when we started off, rents were a lot cheaper. And because we've got a lot of historical contracts, we can leverage that. You know, we can leverage that. So I do understand that the game is very different now, but we still are taking on properties. You know, you have to know how to negotiate. And in as a rent-to-renter, you are doing a landlord a massive favor because you're giving them guaranteed rent, income. Right? You know, they don't have to go and look for tenants, have to deal with all of that. Tenant, oh, I can't pay my rent, etc. So you have to position yourself as a problem solver to the landlords, you know. And if they see you as a problem solver, then you're in a strong position to negotiate because you are. It's a great service for the landlord. They're benefiting loads. Even the properties that we own, I've put rent-to-renters in there because I don't want to necessarily deal with tenants, and you know, it's a lot more passive when you've got a company. So I still love it. It still works. It's still viable, but you have to know what you're doing.
Okay. How do you go about, obviously this podcast is about building wealth, and income allows you to build wealth, but ownership is also important when it comes to wealth. So how did you, when you guys are like expanding your portfolio, how did you think about, okay, this is the, I don't know, maybe the amount that we should allocate to acquiring more rent to rent versus the amount that we should allocate to actually owning as well? Because I think that's the fundamental, one of the fundamental differences between the rent to rent strategy and the strategy where you're actually buying, right? You're owning underlying assets. So how do you guys go about like deciding on that?
Yeah. I think with us, we weren't really too fussed on ownership, if I'm being honest with you, because we wanted a business, right? So we weren't focused on ownership. We wanted to be property entrepreneurs, right? So property business, property ownership is completely different. So, you know, because it was changing our lives, the cash flow was great. That was the first priority, to be honest. And then when it got to a point where deals would fall on our lap, bear in mind, we've got a high street presence. Bear in mind, we've been doing this for over, you know, it's like 9 years now. You know, deals fall on our lap. We get the best deals, to be honest, before they get to market. So we'll get landlords and they'll say, oh, do you know what? I've got this property off market. Would you buy it from us, sort of thing? And that's the advantage of being in the game for so long. Yeah. So we have bought quite a few properties now, to be fair. But it's not something that's a massive focus for us because the main thing for us is cash flow. And we bought the properties quite non-traditional ways. We haven't just had 25% and then dumped it into property because we still have that mindset of how we started off, where you can take 100K, put it into a property, or you can, you know, create more income from that 100K. So we would do non-traditional options, such as lease options, delayed completions, things like that. And that's how we built up our own portfolio as well.
Yeah, I think I like what you said, because I think that the difference is that rather than using it as like an asset class to invest in, because a lot of people, most people who are watching this, they're not property entrepreneurs. You're generating your money from, you know, your job, and then you're just using property as an asset class to store that wealth and just invest into it. Whereas you guys were using property as your main source of income. That was your job.
Yeah. So when people say they're in property now, I can see why. If you're not in property and all you see online is rent to rent, etc., you may have a lack of understanding as to what that means, because, you know, being a property owner and being a property entrepreneur are completely two different things. And I think that's what we need to understand. So it was very much a business for us. Now we own properties. Yes, we are property. But again, I'm more excited about the rent to rents, to be fair, than I have of my own properties. So yeah, there's a big difference between the two. But yeah, property ownership, of course, as you start making money, got to a point cash flow was building. You want to put your money somewhere, you want to build assets, then yes, we did it. But it wasn't like a prime focus. Right. Cash flow was, because cash flow changes your life. Property ownership really doesn't.
Going back to what we were just discussing, so I'm sure you guys were able to scale your business. I'm sure now generates probably multiple 5 figures a month, right? How important is obsession in the grind, in the journey?
Yeah, it's very, very important. You know, there was a point where, you know, I also thought, you know, I'm really bad at telling my story because I leave out a lot of gaps. But I had a salon as well, right? When we moved back from Dubai. And the salon was doing really well. Like, I took my hair, you know, love and passion to the next level and got space. And I was really obsessed with this place. Like, you know, I will be there all day, all night, doing everything I need to do to get it off the ground and just build. And I think that's really important, because at the end of the day, like, you know, without obsession, then you're not going to get progression with your business, right? So, but it's also seasonal as well. So I feel like that obsession needs to be channeled into strategy, into staff, you know, so that you can actually have a business and you're not just burnt out all the time. And that's what I experienced. A lot of burnout, a lot of just missing out on life as well, you know. So it's seasonal. I feel like you should be a seasonal obsession, but you do need to level up after some time.
What did your daily schedule look like when you guys were on that journey of like building and scaling?
Yeah. So, we didn't go on holidays. We didn't have any luxuries really. It was very much, you wake up, take the kids to nursery. I would go to the salon. I'd be all day with my clients. As soon as the salon finished, then I'd be doing stuff with the properties in the evening. Even sometimes tenants would come to my salon to pick up keys. It was very much like everyone in the area knew that they have property. It was very, in our area, we had a bit of a presence. People would know what we did. And, so there wasn't much fun at all in those days. But again, it's one of those things where I didn't know better as well. That was just our lives then.
So a lot of what you were doing, or I guess this main business that you guys did, you did that with your husband.
Yeah.
How does building with your partner, would you advise that? Like, did that kind of impact because even speaking about the obsession, right? Does that kind of impact your relationship in any way?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, I would definitely advise it, especially if you are on the same page. Like, we both had the same passion for business. But at the end of the day, as a woman, when you're married and you have kids and you have responsibilities, then you're going to feel it if you don't prioritize those other responsibilities. And that's what I was doing. I was kind of getting carried away. Like, yeah, we're building. Yeah, don't worry. I don't need to wash dishes, do I? I don't need to clean the house. Let's just build. But actually, no. I realized that you need to be able to balance as a woman, because, you need to pour into each other, right? So that was a really difficult time for us as well, because, I was making more money than I ever had in a salon. Like, I was getting so obsessed with it, but everything around me was just feeling the pressure. I remember one time, I missed my daughter was Mary in the school nativity play, and I missed it. I didn't even know that she'd been picked to be Mary because I was not reading the newsletters. I just wasn't involved in anything. And then I was doing a client and I just looked at my phone quickly and I saw a picture of my daughter, and the mum was like, oh, where was she? She was crying. Where were you? She was crying. Aww. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize, so the obsession needs to be channeled. Otherwise, yeah, you will definitely experience challenges in your relationship.
As an ambitious woman and a go-getter, did you think twice maybe about like having kids and how that would impact how hard you were able to go? Or maybe at the point when you had kids, you wasn't really in that drive mode?
Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't really. My husband was more ready to have, he was ready very quickly to have kids than I was. So, and because I thought it would completely slow me down, I was actually a bit scared to have kids. I grew up with my nieces and nephews and I love them to bits. But I thought for me, I'm going to take a while because I really want to work. So, and when I found out I was pregnant, I was actually very scared, even though I was married or whatever. And, I just thought I'm not ready for this at all.
So it wasn't planned?
Really. No, it wasn't planned. No, but we were married.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know that I'd get pregnant so quickly, So, yeah, I was very scared because I thought, this is it now. My life is over now. That's actually my mindset. That was actually my mindset. I thought, this is it now. I've just got to be a mum now. I don't know. And that also tied into the Dubai initial story as well, because I thought, oh, wow, I just had her. And then Dubai opportunity came along and I thought, okay, yes, let's do it. Like, it was the fear of like, not staying where I am,
Okay.
So yeah, I was very nervous, but to be honest, it does bring out another side of you that you just don't know that you ever had. It does make you work harder. It makes you a lot more focused. But yeah, for anybody out there that's a go-getter, young girl, I get it because I was there as well. But you'll be absolutely fine. It just makes you work harder, to be honest, more focused.
Yeah, because but I think there will be some mums who would be like, who would think the way you were thinking, and they might even already have, not even they may. I see people on TikTok, let's say, for example. I always mention this because I see it a lot, and I think it does scare me when you have mums and they come on TikTok and they're just crying and complaining about like, they want to do this and that, and but the kids are in the way. So like, what advice would you give? Like,
it's really hard. No, that is a part of it as well. But my kids hardly saw me in their early years, and that's one thing that I really feel bad about, because they were in nursery from young, like weeks old. So I feel really bad because I can't get that time back with my kids, but I was so razor focused on what I was doing. And do you know what? I thank God, because at the end of the day, I won't be able to be where I am now if I didn't make that sacrifice. So, it's sacrificial, right? It's not going to be easy at all being a mum and being in building business, but you'll get your time back with your kids. You 100% will get, because now I can spend all day with my kids. I can be at every single assembly. And I'm thankful for that. But I think if I didn't put the work in on the early years, then maybe I wouldn't be able to do that now.
And then you guys eventually ended up moving back to Dubai quite recently. So then what sparked that move?
Yeah, so I feel like in the UK, we got to a point where we were just unchallenged. Unchallenged in our business. Everything is fine. No complaints, everything is going fine. But we've still got some fire in our belly for more. So, we know Dubai very well because we lived here. And even though we left, we always had a place in our hearts for this place. We'd always, every holiday we'd be in Dubai. Everyone's just like, why did you even move? Because you lot are just there all the time anyway. But so we took the leap of faith in December last year because we thought that, this feels right now. We're at the point where the business is quite passive now. We have time to do more. And what better environment than Dubai?
So then you guys moved back.
We moved back.
Do you think you move again?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too. From everything you guys have said, I feel like when you guys start to feel like you're getting too comfortable, you're like, okay, let's move on to the next challenge.
Yeah, spot on. Because I know Dubai very well. Even being back here for a few months, obviously I did the event the other day, and it's because I just love a challenge. I just love a challenge and I love a new environment. And, I just think to myself, I love Dubai, but I don't know. 5-year mark, can I be here more than 5 years? We'll see. But we definitely are open. Maybe Africa, who knows? But
what are the challenges that you're currently working on? Like, where do you see, what are you guys working towards? What are you driving towards now?
Good question. So I've recently started, helping women to scale their businesses, and that's something that I actually really enjoy doing. It's very aligned now. I was speaking to a lady yesterday, and she said, "What made you start to, help women now?" I said, "Do you know what? It just feels very aligned with my life now. I feel like I've got to a stage now where, I love my business. We can get more properties. We've got our systems. So we can grow the business with our staff, with our systems. I have the time now to give back. So I'm really excited to work with more women to help them get out that, that mindset of feeling stuck, because I've been there, that mindset of feeling like, oh, do you know what? That's just her luck, not mine. That mindset of feeling like, oh, I actually do want a better life, or I do want time with my kids, but, I can't. I've been there and I'm so passionate about it. So I know that you can do it. So I'm really excited to work with more women to help them get out of that mental cage and grow and help more women grow. I've helped a few women already, and honestly, the feeling that you get is different to, businesses. Property is very transactional, except you've got tenants, you help tenants. There is a sense of giving back in property, but I feel like when you're helping people, pursue their passions, it feels like a calling.
What I love about your journey, and I think why it's important to share it on this channel, is because a lot of the guests that we have come from a very financy type background, just like myself, whether they started in banking. I think the majority would have started in banking in some way, shape or form. And you don't often, or I don't often hear stories of people who have had the trade of being a hairdresser or even a teacher to then go on and build a property business. Because even people who are in those fields will probably most likely think that I don't, this is not my thing. That's not my thing, right? That's so far away from what I do know. So I think it's so, it's important for your stories to be shared as well, because I think there will be some people watching this who will be like, all the other guests would not relate to them, but your story will. So thank you for sharing that. But just really quickly before we move on to the next section, you mentioned systems. And I think that is one of the important things that I'm even still learning when it comes to scaling. Can you touch on that just a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. So systems such as little things in your business. So for example, practical examples in property is, lock boxes. So not having to physically be at the property. That's how I can be in Dubai. Obviously we have offices and, we have staff. So staff is a big one because our business is our baby. it's our baby. And, I'm obsessed with the business. Still, I'm obsessed with the business, and I'm very much a control freak as well. So it's very hard to delegate. But do you know what? To scale, to hit those like 6-7 figures, you can't do it on your own, So I had to learn that the hard way, to delegate and to train staff. And sometimes with staff, with me, especially if you've grown the business from zero to something, you want your eyes on everything, but you have to trust other people, because you can bring people into your business that are amazing, more efficient than you, but it's just taking that leap of faith and just closing your eyes and just saying, I'm going to give them a chance. So to scale, you need people. You can't do it on your own at all. Obviously now with AI, oh my gosh, that is just amazing when it comes to just emails and assistants, and we've always used from quite early on actually virtual assistants. So we've got a whole team of virtual assistants that we use, and with admin. It's people to scale.
I love that. I think that's important when it comes to scaling. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the Wealth Woe segment, which is basically where one of the listeners sends in a dilemma that they have, and they just want your opinion on what they should do. And if you guys are listening and you want to send in your Wealth Woe, then definitely send it in. The link is in the description box. Okay, so I'll read. This person says, I am focused on building wealth. Prior to getting married, I suggested that me and my husband should buy a house together. He refused. I bought a house and have made it a rental, and he is angry that we are not living in it, but it makes sense to rent for now. He has gone as far as not paying his half of rent and leaving me with 2 kids. What should I do?
Wow. Well, there's a few red flags there. I mean, he's not paying the rent and he's left you, right?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it seems so.
What should you do? I think aside from the financial, right, whether it's a good investment or a good choice before marriage, I think they need to work on their marriage. They need to work on their relationships and their foundations. And, if the foundations aren't there, then any financial decision is to be honest, is irrelevant. So the fact that you're there he's left you with 2 kids, we need to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Why did that make you leave me with 2 kids? That's a financial thing. It can be a discussion. It can cause friction, but it shouldn't be to the extent where you're being left now. So I think we need to go back to a drawing board and have a conversation with our partner and say, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on? Are we meant to be together?
Yeah.
If something such as a financial potential investment can make us split up, then are you meant to be together? I'm not sure.
I think when I read this, I was like, huh? Like, it just seems like it went from 0 to 100. So I feel like there might be some underlying issues that need to be agreed upon. So what I understand from what she's saying is that I guess maybe when they were dating, she was going in for an investment property, and then she's like to him, we should do this together and use it as a rental. And he's like, no. And then she goes ahead and buys it as a rental, is renting it out. But he's like, we should be living in that. And since I don't know.
But they're leaving. Like, we didn't have to leave, right?
Like, where are you going?
And the 2 kids, they have the kids together. I'm sure, mummy and daddy.
I don't think the property is the issue. There's something else there.
Yeah, I agree.
Something else there.
I agree, because, you have these things in marriage, right? When you're getting with somebody, it's kind of normal to have some sort of financial differences, especially if you come from different backgrounds, right? So it's like, you could be more financially literate on investments, and maybe he's not, or vice versa. So you're going to have a little bit of, what should we do? How should we do it? But it just seems a bit extreme. I don't know.
Yeah, something else must be going on. And I think you should get to the bottom of what else is going on.
Yeah.
Because also when you're thinking about marriage, like if we have an investment property and we're married, that's still our investment property. That's still our income. So I don't understand why that would make you get up and leave. Yeah.
It's together, right? Like when you're married, everything is together. I mean, I don't know, I guess if maybe it's early days, I don't know how deep in their relationship, but they're getting married, right?
I think they are married.
They are married.
And they've got 2 kids.
Yeah. So no, this is deeper. This is deeper than just a property issue.
Yeah, maybe I'd recommend going to see someone else.
Yeah, good idea actually.
Yeah.
Look, like a counsellor?
Yeah, like a counsellor, or there's some sort of relationship counselling, because I think the issues are deeper than that property that you bought, because that should have not made him walk out and abandon paying rent.
No.
That's a bit...
No, there must have been something bubbling. Maybe that just tipped him over the edge.
Yeah.
And he thought, okay, that's it. I've had enough now.
Yeah. But this is also why I think financial, like you're saying, you're never going to be fully financially compatible with someone because you guys have, it may be the case that you've come from two completely different backgrounds, but you do want to be able to make these decisions together.
Yes.
So that stuff like that doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess, you know, the number one reason for divorce, last time I read, is finances.
Yeah.
So I know it is a big issue. I know it is something that you do need to discuss. I know it is very serious. But that seems like something that can be worked through. That the scenario about the house, should we rent it out? Should we live in it? A lot of couples have gone through that dilemma as well, to be fair. You know, so I get it. Finance is a massive issue. It's huge. And, you know, picking the wrong partner can make or break you financially as well. Yeah. So
this is an example.
I do get it. So yeah. Hopefully they can work it out. Hopefully they can get some counselling or therapy just to talk through that.
Fingers crossed, girl. And if anything changes, then definitely keep us updated. Yeah. So moving on now to the quick fire money questions. These are just 3 questions, and then just, you know, tell me what your answer is. Yeah. So the first one is, what is the best investment you've ever made?
Mentorship. 100%. Although, looking back, he wasn't that great, right? He wasn't that great. And he doesn't actually, he's not around anymore, to be fair. I've actually looked for him, but he's not around anymore. He wasn't that great. But he gave us the blueprint. And that's the thing. Like, you know, I feel online, like we said before, there's so much mentors out there now, like so many. It's a great thing. It's a real great thing. But I feel like mentors get like a bit of stick these days as well. You think, oh, you're money grabbing, you just want to get money off people. But actually, no. If you have the right mentor in the right industry you want to go into, you will be fine because you have somebody that's done it and they're showing you how to do it just in exchange for a fee. That's only fair, right? So it's like when you think about it, you know, when you think about going to school and, you know, becoming a teacher, becoming a doctor, becoming a nurse, you have to pay for that knowledge. So why do you expect to be successful without some exchange in value, right? So that's the thing for me, like mentorship is absolutely massive for me. I still invest in mentors and yeah, it's a life changer.
Love that. Love that. Next question is, what is the biggest money mistake you've ever made?
So we lost 25k on the house. Oh. Yeah. So basically, we don't buy houses the traditional way. We usually buy it through like lease options or delayed completions. So this is where you kind of put up a bit of money and you say, I'm going to buy the house, but I'm going to buy it probably at the end of 18 months or something like that. You sign it so it's all legal. But we used bridging. There's the time when we had to use bridging to finance this deal, right? But we didn't get approved on the bridging in time. But we already gave 25k to the owner to promise that we're going to buy the property. But we didn't get approved for the loan in time, so we didn't get the property. And we asked for the 25k back, and he said no.
Oh no!
Yeah, so that's when we first started buying properties, and we weren't as experienced in buying properties. Yeah, right? So, but
that must have hurt.
That was a difficult 25k, but you know, we just got smarter and more savage, and you know, we just went on quite aggressive after that. But yeah, that 25k did hurt. But at the end of the day, it's business, right?
You know, these deals you're saying, delayed completion and leases, where do you go about finding those?
You don't. That's the thing. It's your connections. Right. You know, it's the conversations that you have. So somebody might have a property for let, for example, and say it's been up for let for maybe a year. Maybe they're struggling, and you know, then they're more open to have a conversation because obviously it's been up for let for some time, or even it works for sale. If it's been up for sale for some time, they're struggling. They now become a motivated seller. Right. So if you offer them a solution, again, like I say, our company, we're very much on solutions that, okay, we can buy it for you for X amount, but we might not buy it for you now, but we can sign on it and we'll buy it for you complete in 18 months. You know, they've got a guaranteed sale, fixed at a price, and in between, you'll rent it out from that person and you use it as a vehicle to make money. Right. So that's how we've bought a lot of our properties, and it's smart because you can use it as a vehicle, rent to rent, but then at the end of a couple of years, then it's yours. But you fixed in a price. So by the time you go to purchase it, the value's gone up compared to when you've signed. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
When you guys were doing this, did you learn this on that course that you did, or was this just from like It came up and then you just was like smart about it.
Yeah, no, we actually didn't learn that at all on the course. We learnt it through landlords. So there were some landlords, old school landlords that you meet whilst, anywhere into rental, probably has met some old school portfolio landlords, and they know these sort of things. So, it's just through, even in a sense, having mentors within your business, clients as mentors that give sort of insight on how to do these things, and even meeting mortgage brokers as well, that give you insight. So these are certain things that I don't know if I think they do teach it now. But at the time, it was just being within property, you'll be able to, learn these things. Yeah.
And then lastly, what is one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's trying to build wealth?
You already know what I'm going to say. Get a mentor. Get a mentor, 100%. Getting a mentor changed my life. And, if you think about it as an investment. Don't think that I'm paying 10K, 15K, whatever, 3K. Don't think about it like that. Think about what this can do for me. Think about what is the ROI on this money that I'm spending. I mean, you could not get a mentor, right? You can go on YouTube, you can use free resources, you can read. Invest in your knowledge to whatever capacity it is that you're able to invest. But I say getting a mentor is actually a cheat code. A good mentor is a cheat code. So invest first before you put yourself out there or start investing in businesses. Just get yourself the knowledge first. Once you have the knowledge, you've got the confidence, you've got knowledge, and you can go for it, and you will be successful provided you are consistent and you work hard. It's almost like it's a no-brainer. That's the way I see it. With any business that you have, provided you've got knowledge and you've got a good work ethic, you're going to be fine. It's not that hard, right? I know people will be thinking, oh yeah, it's all right for you to say that it's not that hard, but it's not. I haven't got two heads, and I don't like to overcomplicate things. I feel like sometimes, people that have reached a certain level of success, they try to overcomplicate success. It really isn't that complicated. Just know what you're doing, be good at it, and be consistent, and you will grow. I can put money on it. You will grow.
I love that. I love that. What a good place to end. So if someone wanted to contact you, reach out to you, maybe have you as their mentor, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm trying to build up my digital footprint. Lamide said I don't have much of my So I'm getting there. And this is the thing, like I've just been so in the business. So I'm slowly coming out of the business now to help others. But Tomi Tieyo is my Instagram, Tomi Tieyo on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, you should be able to find me on there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.